I come to this period with mixed emotions. And you may not know this, but just a few years ago, in fact, it was 2009 when we inaugurated, or during the inauguration of President Barack Obama. We honored Dr. Claude Black. Dr. Black was a giant, not just in this community, but certainly in this community. A giant of a man that did so much for this city. And at that time, his grandson, Taj Matthews, was the one who had to accept the award. And so, when many have talked to me about coming to San Antonio, I have another friend who was a classmate. Actually, I just ran into two of my Morehouse classmates, one Byron Miller and William Burke. But I remember Byron always telling me about San Antonio having the largest Martin Luther King Jr. parade in March. And so I always was tied up on the holiday. But this particular holiday, God was able to work it out so we would be here. And so I'm so thankful to have this opportunity to be with each of you. But I want to challenge you this afternoon, because while we observe and celebrate, the dream of Martin Luther King Jr. is not fulfilled yet. You may say, well, Brother King, what do you mean? You see, my dad and my mom through her life wanted to eradicate or eliminate poverty, racism, and militarism from our nation. And we made great strides in race. Yes, we have. We are not where we need to be, but we've made great strides. But in the area of poverty and militarism, we are not moving rapidly enough in a progressive way. Because in this nation, right now and last night, hundreds of thousands of children went to bed hungry and woke up this morning not able to eat breakfast in this nation called the United States of America. Nearly 50 million people living in poverty, and the numbers are growing. Every day, people are losing their houses. What are we going to do as Americans so that we can contain this situation? Because I happen to believe that in this nation, even with a terrible economy, everybody deserves a decent job. Now, I didn't say that everybody will be a multi-millionaire, but I said everybody deserves a decent job in the United States of America with a government operating budget of over $3 trillion. That's not counting corporation budgets, that's just the government. Everybody deserves health care. Everybody deserves a decent education. Everybody deserves a decent home. And everybody deserves justice. Now, justice is very crucial because justice does not always come for poor people and people of color, most particularly. Because if you go down to any courthouse in America, and Richard Pryor captured this, the late, great Richard Pryor, by saying, go down to the courthouse looking for justice, and all you'll find is just us. And while that's humorous, we have to do something to address that issue. Because God did not make any of us to end up going to jail. Our jails are full of blacks and browns and poor whites. And we've got to find a way to create what I call is an equitable system of justice. And then in addition to that, if someone commits a crime and is convicted of that crime, particularly if it's a felony crime and they actually do their time, when they have done their time to society, they should also have the right to have their right of voting reinstated. Because so many people, because of felony charges, a felony doesn't have to be someone being killed. That is a felony also. But I mean, there are other felony charges around drugs. And when you get a felony charge, you lose your right to vote. You serve your time to our society, you come back and you're still working, you're still paying taxes. But if you are not able to vote, that is taxation without representation. And it is unfair, unjust, and we should not tolerate that. If you pay your taxes and you've paid your debt, you should be able to vote. These are some of the issues that I believe my father would be focused on. He would be focused on a military nation that is spending billions and billions of dollars on defense. And yet we can't find any dollars for human rights and human beings. There's something wrong with that. But the only way that we change that is we bring new elected officials in office who represent the interest of the people. Now, you know, I'm going to say something a little interesting right now because I'm in the great state of Texas. And Texas is a great state. Texas on many issues has been very conservative. Texas. I don't want to talk about any specific part, but on some issues, Texas has been conservative. In fact, Texas used to have a lot of prisons that people could rent space here to put other prisoners in. Texas used to lead the nation in the death penalty. In Huntsville, yes. I've been there many times protesting the death penalty. And you may say, well, Brother King, how do you do that? My daddy was gunned down by a white man when I was 10 years old. My grandmother was gunned down by a black man when I was 16 years old in 1974. So it would have been easy for me to hate black folk and white folk, hate everybody. But I am so thankful that I learned how to embrace the spirit of love because it teaches you to dislike the evil act, but you still love the individual. And see, we have to learn in this nation how to forgive because we don't seem to know how to forgive. We harbor a lot of hostility. Now, what is great about this nation, and this is where I may get in a little trouble, is people have the right to say what they want to say. I think that's good. We have a Democratic Party. We have a Republican Party. We may have a true independent party one day, but it really doesn't exist much. We have a Tea Party. Now, the beauty is all of them exist. The tragedy is they don't get along. And, you know, some of the things that Tea Party, I'm not sure what the good is yet. I'll say it that way. That probably get me in trouble. I'm just not sure what the Tea Party good is doing. Because we don't need division and divisiveness. We need to find a way to work together. We need to turn to our brothers and sisters and stop turning on our brothers and sisters. We gotta have that kind of love for humankind. That's all Martin Luther King Jr. was talking about. And quite frankly, that's why I say we observe and not celebrate. because it isn't time to celebrate yet. We have a lot of work to do. We got to roll up our sleeves. We've got to teach our children, as biblically it says, train up a child in the way that they should go, so that when that child is old, they won't depart from that training. Because if you train up our children right, then our children don't end up trying to bully other children in school. There's something wrong when you run around trying to bully folk. That's an inadequacy and insecurity in your own self, because we're not raising our children properly. We can and we must do better. We are a better nation than the behavior we're exhibiting. You know, my dad captured it in this way. He said that in life, all of us have talents. But we've got to find out what it is in life that our greatest talent is. And when we find out what that is, we must do those jobs so well that the living, the dead, or the unborn could do those jobs no better. He characterized it this way by saying, if it falls your lot to be a street sweeper, why, go on and sweep streets like Michelangelo carved marble. Sweep streets like Beethoven composed music.
Go ahead, Dr.
Sweep streets like Shakespeare wrote poetry. Sweep streets like Raphael painted pictures.
Go ahead.
Sweep streets so well that all the host of the heavens and earth would have to pause and say, here lived a great street sweeper that did his job well. The historian Douglas Malloch captured it another way by saying, if you cannot be a pine on the top of the hill, just be a shrub in the valley, but be the best little shrub on the side of the road. Be a bush if you cannot be a highway. If you cannot be a tree, just be a trail. If you cannot be the sun, just be a star. For it isn't by size that you win or you fail. You just got to be the best of what you are. That's what we need in America. We need us to be the best of what we are. And when we are operating at that optimum level, then we'll be able to find a way to put a moratorium on foreclosures. Then we'll be able to find a way to ensure that every child is educated and every child has a meal when he or she comes to school, and every child is able to be competitive in this global economy. That's the kind of nation we are. Oh, we're better than what we're exhibiting today. As I get ready to close, I want to share this story. When I was probably about 14 years old, I had the opportunity to go to the school where my mother went to college. She went to Antioch College, which is based in Yellow Springs, Ohio. And when I got to that college, there was a statue on the campus that had an inscription of words that inspires me every day. That, first of all, statue was of the educator Horace Mann. And what it said was, be ashamed to die until you've won a victory for humanity. Let me say that again. Be ashamed to die until you've won a victory for humanity. Everybody can't do incredible things, but we all can do a little something to make this world better. You see, we must do it. Basically, we don't really have a choice, I don't think. Because there will be generations who come after us. Generations yet unborn. Last year we dedicated in October the memorial in Washington, D.C. And you know what? We are living in an interesting nation. Today we have a Martin Luther King holiday that we're observing right now. But one day Congress could, I don't know that it will happen, but they could decide that we're going to change the Martin Luther King holiday to Human Rights Day. They may not, but they could. But guess what? As long as this civilization exists, as long as we have a nation's capital, forever there now is a monument in Washington, D.C., erected in honor of Martin Luther King Jr., the only man of peace in between presidents and war memorials. That is nothing short of a miracle. But it was because Americans came together. Corporate America came together and Americans from all over our nation to give dollars. So when you go to Washington, go by and visit the Martin Luther King Memorial. I can assure you that you will be inspired. The final thing I promise I'm going to say now. I often end with these words. They are my father's words. Every day we have to make critical decisions, or at least every week. I'm in the process where I've actually made a critical decision that affects my wife, myself, and my family right this moment.
My Lord.
And what we must do is follow the words of Martin Luther King Jr., for he said, "The ultimate measure of a man is not where he stands in times of comfort and convenience, but where he stands in times of challenge and controversy." He went on to say that on some questions, cowardice asked the question, is a position safe? Expediency asked the question, is a position politic? Vanity asked the question, is a position popular? But that something deep in the depths of our souls called conscience asks the question, is a position right? He went on to say, sometimes we must take positions that are neither safe nor popular nor politic, but we must take those positions because our consciences tell us they're right.